Welcome to Winging It and Winning, a podcast show where you will be motivated and encouraged to follow your dreams. Today we're talking about something very serious. According to the CDC, nearly 1 in 11 females and about 1 in 15 male high school students report having experienced physical dating violence. Today we are talking to my friend Candice, who experienced teen violence and who was able to climb her way out of it. Please help me welcome my friend Candice.
Hi guys. Thank you so much for having me on here. I can't wait to share my story. When you first asked me if I wanted to be on it, I just felt like this would be something beneficial for me to do and just to get some of the word out there and a little bit of experience of what I went through. So thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, no, thank you, Candice. I couldn't have thought about someone more perfect for this episode. With Winging It and Winning, I wanted to bring awareness to things that everybody may experience, or that's very common, but we don't talk about it, right? Mm-hmm. And my podcast is about people who've overcome adversity and who are able to climb out or get out of rough situations and move forward with their life and not use their negative situations as a crutch to do bad or to feel pity for themselves, who persevere. Mm-hmm. And so in this category, in life in general, I think that you're doing great. And when I learned that you went through this, I was shocked because I would have never thought, right? I would have never thought that you experienced that because of how you are as a person. You're a good person, you're bubbly, you're cheerful, you're all good things. And so when I wanted to talk about this, I was like, Candice would be perfect because she's never really... You don't use that as an excuse for anything in your life, right? Use that as hey, that's something I went through and I got out of it and think it made you a lot stronger.
Absolutely.
And so I just feel like a lot of teens experience violence and they don't talk about it because it's just something that they're ashamed of or they try to handle it themselves. Mm-hmm. Not only with teens, but think about domestic violence, right? Mm-hmm. How many people, even when you're married and an adult, you experience that, and they also don't talk about it because it's embarrassing to them. Oh my God, I'm embarrassed that I'm still in this relationship. And they don't bring it out until they're ready to go and they're done with that relationship. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I wanted to use this platform to educate people out there and to kind of highlight people like you who have gone through it and you're still doing well and you're okay. And that's why. So Thank you for being vulnerable with us today.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, so I guess I'll share a little bit of my story. Yes. And I don't really... it has defined me. It has made me a stronger person, but I don't let it be my backbone, or it's not the core of who I am today. It's really something that was so far back, but those challenges did make me a little bit stronger in certain areas. So it happened when I was in high school, and my high school boyfriend at the time, he was actually a few years older than me. I was 15 when I met him, and he was 18 and we met downtown Wednesday night in Riverside. It's they have the farmer's market, and you'd go down and just kind of walk around. And I was with one of my girlfriends, and we met this guy that it's actually... fast forward a few years later, it's my son's dad. But when we were together, it was everything that you wanted to see. I had other boyfriends before, and then I met him, and I was like, oh my goodness, he had his own car, he had his own job, he lived on his own with a roommate, and so it was just those things that every girl was like, oh my goodness, that at that time, it was super cool.
You felt like you were dating a man.
Yeah.
How old were you, and how much is the age?
So 3 years. So I was 15, he was 18. Okay. And just, he would come to everything. I was in cheer and just different. My brother was in baseball, and so he'd come with me to all that stuff, just watching everything. And I really thought at the time that, oh my goodness, this is my love of my life. And we dated for 3 years, and then I got pregnant my 4th year, and then we stayed together for 5 years. And the first time that, there's so many warning signs, Veronica, now looking back on it, I'm like, oh my goodness, why did I stay in that relationship? Or why was I so naive? But at the
your
time,
age.
yeah, at that time you don't know. Like, you're just like, oh, that's what it is. Like, he wanted to be with me all the time. He didn't really want me around my friends. Like, just like little.
So how long did you guys date? So you guys, okay, so you met him at Wednesday night market night,
Mm-hmm.
and then how long did you guys date? Like, did he, like swoon you off your feet? Like, how was like the dating process before he started showing signs of control and?
Yeah, so we dated for a couple of months, and it was mostly just like phone calls, and everyone, like, we once a week I'd go downtown Wednesday night, or we'd go to the movies, something like that. And then I introduced him to my parents, and at first my parents were like super skeptical about me like dating him because he was a couple of years older than me. But I think my parents just really wanted to trust me and give me a little bit of freedom and space, and just, it's part of growing up. You date people. And I mean, it was hard because in high school I was around all my friends. Like, I did some stuff, but when I dated him, it was just me and him most of the time, unless he came to an event with my friends, or a competition or something. But as far as like, we started being like boyfriend girlfriend like probably 3 months after we dated, and we stayed together for all the way till my son was a year old. And as far as like the controlling stuff, I would say it maybe my senior year is when.
So you were with him junior or sophomore?
Freshman year going into my senior or sophomore year. So like that summer.
Okay.
Beginning of that sophomore year is when like I really said like, okay, yeah, he's my boyfriend now.
And you were with him until your sophomore year, all the way until your senior year?
Mm-hmm,
okay.
Mm-hmm. We'd have like the little breakups here and there, and then
mm-hmm.
get back together, and but all together it was like those 3 years. And I so I ended up getting pregnant with him my senior year, and I didn't really realize I was pregnant until almost towards graduation. Like, actually no, it was after graduation is when I realized it, because I still hadn't had my period, and I'm like, okay, well maybe it's just late, but really no, you missed it for a couple months, you're not late, like go get checked up. So found out I was pregnant right after high school, and I hid it. I was so like, I was 18 already, but I was still like just shocked and embarrassed, and I couldn't believe that I wasn't careful, and I was on birth control, but I missed a couple pills here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And I hid it from my parents for probably about 5 months.
Oh my God, that must have been so hard.
Yeah, it was hard. And the first time that he actually got physical with me was around that 5th month of my pregnancy. And we were at a park right across the street from my mom and dad's house. And I don't even remember what the argument was about. It was about something, I don't know, something stupid. But I just remember like he like reached over, he was in the passenger side and I was driving, but we were parked on like on the street. And he reached over and just like kind of like swung his hand out, but like did like a kind of like a slap hit. It wasn't really like a full-on like physical like sock or punch, but it was just like a really hard hit to my stomach. And I like, first it was like to my face, and I moved out of the way and it went down and it hit my stomach. And so I remember getting so mad. I was like, I can't believe you did that. I got out of the car and I was like walking around trying to get away from him, and he's like, I'm sorry. It was just, I don't know what happened. And I was so upset. And I like, my parents relationship has always been very strong. Like, it's they got together when they were young, but like I've always only seen like a lot of love from them. Like, it's never like, every once in a while my dad would get mad or like he'd get upset, but I only, like when I was in high school, only seen my mom cry one time that I remember. Like, so when this happened, I was like, what in the world? You're not supposed to do that. And so I took off. I walked around the park. He was following me. Then I finally, like, I ran, like, to my car and just got in my car and went home. And I left him at the park. And I didn't talk to him for, like, 2 days. And then, but I'm pregnant. And I'm 5 months pregnant. And I was just like, I can't be with him anymore. But at the same time, I'm like, oh my goodness, but I'm having his baby. Like, and it was just so many emotions. I didn't want to tell my parents because I already knew they'd be upset. And so it was okay, let me talk to him. Let me see what he says. Got back together. He said, promise he would never do it again. And that was the first of I wouldn't say many, but a handful of times where he was just downright ugly and mean. And I excused it for so long. Because I wanted to make my family work, and I didn't want to be a statistic, and I wanted to keep that young relationship together.
Yes, like the honey. You wanted the, what is it called? Like the fairy tale ending. Happily ever after.
Oh yeah.
And so, before that happened, you said there were some red flags. So let's talk a little bit about somebody who doesn't know what those red flags are. What are red flags that he gave you? So you said number one is controlling. Like he wanted to be with you. Well, he didn't put it as controlling, but he put it as, I want to spend time with you all the time. Okay, which we know that's just a facade for controlling. They want to isolate you. They don't want you to have friends. They want to be your only friend. So you have nowhere to run when things get hard.
Yeah.
What are other red flags that you would say you saw?
So back at it now. So so believe it or not, you guys, whoever's listening, cell phones and having one like in middle school or elementary school was not a thing back in our day. It was pagers in 8th grade, and then it went to phones, like flip phones. And I remember wanting one so bad, but my mom and dad wouldn't get me one. They're like, you don't need it. My dad used to say all the time, like, pagers are only for drug dealers and prostitutes. You're none of those, so you don't need one. And that was, I think, just his way of not getting me one. And they'd have to call the house phone to talk to me. And so I remember we had dated for, I think, 2 years. In my middle of my junior year is when he got me a cell phone, and he was like, hey, I got you a cell phone. So I thought, oh my goodness, like awesome, like I have a cell phone now. But little by little it was, oh, well, I paid for it. Well, let me see who's on your, like, who have you called? Who have you, who are you talking to? Those type of things. And for me at that time, I was like, oh, like I have nothing to hide. Here you go. Like not thinking anything bad. It was supposed to be open and trust, and so I was like, okay, here. But that's one of the signs, like just wanting to micromanage things or see what's going on. The other stuff was not always wanting to be around me, or if I didn't answer a call in 30 minutes or 15 minutes, it was calling again, why aren't you answering, pick up, like, hey, and then it would be like, oh, I just missed your voice, like I wanted to spend time with you, I was hoping to see you today, but I guess you're busy.
Would he give you the guilt trip?
Yeah, guilt trips all the time. And just, those were probably the two main ones.
So he got control over you by getting you a cell phone. That's how he got the control over, like, well, let me see who's on your phone because I paid for that phone. And okay, so did your parents know that he paid for your phone?
Yes.
It wasn't a secret.
No. Okay. Yeah, they were fine with that. And then some of the other, like, little warning signs are like not wanting to be around your friends, or not wanting you to do stuff with your friends without them.
AKA isolation. Okay.
So yeah, isolating me.
And control and guilt tripping.
Yeah. So those were it, but at that time it was just like, oh my goodness, this guy really likes me, like I'm all he thinks about. And it's just, it sounds so like naive and cliche right now thinking about it, but when you're young and just vulnerable, it's easy to to get a different thought about it. So.
Yeah, you're right. You're misconstruing him wanting to see you and like spend time with you. You're misconstruing that as him wanting to be with you, when it's really control. You know, it's not really, and they know, it's like they know your weakness and your strengths, right? They know what you'll allow and what you won't allow. So they're like, again, guilt tripping you. You don't want to see me. Why don't you want to see? I miss you. I miss your beautiful voice. All of that.
All of those.
And when you're young, and that's all you want is for your boyfriend to want to spend time with you. So you're like, fine, okay, like you think that that's normal until you talk to people like your parents or other people where you're like, no, that's not normal. You know, other adults. That's why, you know, young people out there, teenagers, like it's so important for them to seek advice from their parents.
Absolutely.
Because, or from, if not your parents, maybe from,
From
an older cousin, an older
yeah.
aunt, an older whoever it is, you know, like who they trust won't lead them in the wrong way. No, you know, and just kind of ask them, is this normal? And any woman would say, you know, that's control. It's not normal. A healthy relationship is one where you are both separate, independent individuals and come together at certain times, but it's not something that's meant to make you feel bad when you don't spend time with that person.
Yeah. And for me, like, I've always just, ever since I was young, like, I've just always been kind of like a nurturing type where, you know, I want to see everybody else doing good, making sure everyone else is taken care of, and just not to get into too much of his background, but his family wasn't as close as like my family was, and he didn't have that good of a relationship with his parents, so that's why he had left at a young age out of the house and was by himself. So I just remember back then, like, oh my goodness, like this kid just, you know, he doesn't know what like a real family is, and like we need to show him love, and like God says to like love people and to forgive people, and you know, just forgive them 7 times 70, you know, and it's just that was always instilled in me. So I'm like, okay, let me try to work this out. Let's try to do other stuff. And you know, it just I never remembered the fights, what they were about. I just remember the incidents of what happened, and that's been like what's kind of stayed with me forever, because I don't ever, now that I'm an adult and I have my son, he's 16 now, and my daughter, or not my daughter, my sister, she's more like she's your daughter. Yeah, she's more like a daughter to me. Yeah. But they get along like brothers and sisters, that's why. But I don't want to ever see them have to struggle or go through something like that, or treat somebody like that, or be treated that way. And just, you know, so thankfully I was able to, I knew it wasn't right. I knew deep in my heart that love isn't ugly, and it's not mean like that. It's not controlling. It's not abusive. Yes. And sometimes people don't get that, and I think because I had such a strong connection with my family, like that big like loving background, we've always been close. I knew like if my parents knew that this was happening, they'd be upset. They'd want to like kill him. They'd want to like just they wouldn't stand for it. And but it still happened. Like I said, I was pregnant. We were into the relationship for 3 years, and you know, 18 years old, young teenager still. Yeah, I was out of high school, but I wasn't mature enough to really know the ramifications of everything in the family, and just where if I would stay in that relationship, what would have happened down the road. So I stayed with him.
So quick question. So after he hit you physically, did he go through those stages of like the honeymoon stage again, and I'm so sorry, where everything was perfect, and then boom, it happened again?
Yes. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that. Like, did you know that it was a cycle, or when you were in it, were you like, when you were in it, did you realize this is a cycle, or you just thought like, oh great, he did change? Like,
I have always heard, oh, it's a cycle, or an abusive person is always going to be an abusive person. Like it's very hard for them it's very rare for somebody to change. And they might change with somebody else, but with you, you've already accepted that, and they're most likely going to keep doing it because you allow it. Or not that you allow it, but because you've set a standard where you're saying it's okay. And so it's hard. It really is hard to get out of that. So yeah, he was super friendly, and I mean, very loving. And I mean, I was, like I said, I was pregnant. So it was like, what do you need? Do you want me to get this? Do you want me to do this? Let me give you a back massage. Would bring flowers, and hey, I got you flowers. And at like 18 to be getting flowers all the time, it's like, oh my goodness, yeah, he has changed. Yeah. And then it just took maybe a couple more months later, closer to my due date, it happened again. And I was in my room at the time, and I remember like he got upset and just like kind of choked me and like threw me up against the wall, and didn't hit me again, like just got me and threw me against the wall. And then just the look in his face was like just evil, and just so upset and so mad. And I just remember like, what he's doing it again. And at that time, like I there was a vase next to me, and I just remember I grabbed it, and like I tried to throw it, like, and I tried to like get him, and he had like pushed me off against the wall. And then I grabbed the vase, and I remember throwing it at him, and it didn't hit him, but then I ended up starting to play into it too. And I just remember like yelling, "Get out of here!" Like, and he left. And I cried, but it's almost my due date. And once again, like this time I didn't talk to him for I think 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. So show him 2 weeks. Yeah. Is not talking to him.
And then happened, and I'm like, okay, like it wasn't that bad, like he was just upset, like all of those, I did this, like the blame on myself. The blame on myself. I remember her just saying, well, if I didn't do this, he wouldn't have got upset, or I should have just did that. And
can I just say that's very common for people who are experience abuse, for them to justify the perpetrator's actions by saying, well, if I wouldn't have done this, this wouldn't have happened. But no matter what
it's
you
never
do,
okay.
It's not okay to lay hands or have hands laid on you, or you lay hands on someone else. It's never okay.
Yeah.
So, but at a young age, you were 18 at this time, you're still young, but you're thinking, if I wouldn't have done X, Y, and Z, he wouldn't have hit me. Or put his hands on me.
Yeah. So, fast forward a little bit, we have our son, and Veronica, like there's so many things I've left out, but if the extent of my relationship and what I went through at a young age, I really do think has made me so much stronger. But I was sheltered. Like I grew up pretty sheltered. Like my parents didn't really talk about like a lot of that type of stuff. They didn't talk about finances with me. They didn't talk about like the drugs and abuse and different ways of living. Like they really tried to just give me their way of life and show me, hey, this is what you can do, and had me and my brother in sports and in activities, so that way we'd stay away from stuff like that, because my dad had a rough childhood, so to speak, so he didn't want to see us going down that path. And my grandma, our family's from Casablanca, and I remember going to my grandma's house, and my parents never would let us go outside and play on the street or meet any of the friends in the neighborhood. Like it was just like, no, you stay in the house. Like you guys, your friends are your people that are in your sports and your dance club, and at school. Like, and they really try to shelter us from some of that stuff. And I think because they didn't want us to get into the wrong crowd or the wrong group of people, which, I'm thankful for, because I was a little crazy. Like I was like drama. I still am drama, you guys, but
the good drama.
Right?
It's never bad. It's always fun stuff with you.
But like with him, I learned so much. Like I found out like his parents were on drugs. Like he was on drugs. Like there was one time where my dad hired him right after 18, or right when I got pregnant. Like my dad gave him a better job and was like, hey, like come work with me. So he gave him a job, and from when my dad hired him is right when I told my parents that that I was pregnant, and like a month later, my dad hired him to work with him in his company. Or
by this time, did your parents have any idea about what was going on?
No. Honestly, I've never even told them this. Like, so if they listen to this, it'll be like newsflash. Like, like I barely, like I told my like friends and like a couple of my cousins, but I never really told them the reason why we split up. I just said, you know, like they know some of it, but not like the whole story. So that was something that I never like to like make myself look weak.
But you're not weak.
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I know.
You're not.
I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, they didn't know any of that. And like I think they suspected it, but they never like actually like straight up asked me the questions like, hey, did this happen? Like, hey, and so it was just one day, like my parents or my mom witnessed it. But yeah, it was, I don't like asking for help a lot.
Your
like,
mom witnessed like just like him be physically abusive, or just like a little
just
bit of
verbally,
his, like,
just
verbal.
it was actually the very last time. It was a little after my son was a year old. It was for my cousins. My cousin was getting married and we were going to try on dresses. And so we went to David's Bridal on Tyler. And it was my family, like my mom, my grandma, my cousin, a couple of the girls that were in the wedding party, and we were trying on dresses. And it took like, maybe we were in there for 30 minutes, 30, maybe 40 minutes at the most, and he was in the car with Anthony, and Anthony was in the back seat in his car seat. And I just remember like he came out and like opened up the door into David's Bridal and just like yelled in front of the whole like room, like what the hell's taking so long, like you fucking almost done with this, I'm hungry, let's go fucking get something to eat, like,
oh my gosh.
And I was so embarrassed because like we're doing something like it's supposed to be this happy time, and I look at him and I was like, I'll be out there right now, just hold on, like, hey, go wait in the car. He's like, I'm tired of freaking waiting, and just like in a ugly nasty mood. And then like, so I was like, you know what, you guys, like, instead of saying no, you guys go, or you go, like I was like, okay, you know what, you guys. And he's in my car because on top of all of this, he lost his job with my dad. He was there a year and a half, and now I know it was because he was doing drugs, and he tried to say my dad was doing stuff and trying to manipulate me, and acted like he found stuff when it was actually really his, and he was just on one of his I don't know, highs, I guess.
Right.
And I have no idea, because I just was like, oh, he's depressed. He's a little anxious because he lost his job. He still hasn't been able to find work.
Making excuses for his bad attitude and behavior.
He became, Metal, you're going to be like, what the hell, Candice? So he actually, he ended up becoming homeless. And he lost the apartment. He got his car repoed. He became homeless. So at first he was living in a shelter. We went to the shelter, and we had saved up some money too for like a year and a half. We saved up almost like around $9,000, and it was supposed to be to get our own place.
And that's a lot for
a young
couple. That's a lot of money.
It was literally every single paycheck I got, and then what he'd get. And when I was pregnant, giving birth, the next day I gave my card to him. Sorry, I'm going back and forth because there's like bits and pieces.
Fine. It's fine.
But I remember like giving my ATM, my debit card to him, and everything was in my name because like his stuff was like totally messed up. And so I gave him the debit card, and he went with his stepdad at the time to go celebrate, I remember, and he got back to the hospital room super late, and I didn't ask him for my card for a couple of days because I just forgot about it, like young, like barely had the baby. We went home. I was able to go home like 3 days later, and when I was at the house and he came over, and my parents like were super strict. They're like, even though they knew we already had sex, we already had a baby, like I remember like getting so mad at my mom because I'm like, well, why can't he just spend the night? I need help. And mom's like, no, he's not, like, he doesn't live here. You guys aren't married. He's not going to spend the night, never under my roof. Like, if you guys want to find something on your own, you do it. But she would not let him spend the night. So he'd come, and he only was able to be at the house for a few hours, and then he'd have to go home. And little did she know that he didn't have a home. He was homeless. Like, he was living in the shelter. Well, they kicked him out of the shelter, and now looking back, yeah, they kicked him out because he was probably still using.
But
and
they were like, poor him.
Yeah. So then there's this Kohl's by my parents' house. He would literally, I remember bringing him blankets. He would literally go in, like, sleep in the back of Kohl's, and then for a few hours, and then in the middle of the night, like when I thought my parents were asleep, I'd open up the van. They had this big old, like, Chevy Astro van, and I'd let him, like, come into the van and sleep in the back seat, and then he had to be out by 6 a.m. because I didn't want my mom going to work and seeing him there. And we did that for probably a month, like.
Wow.
And oh wait, let me go back to, okay, so when he got my card, I asked for it back, and he lost it. Apparently he lost it. Well, I looked at my account, drained all this money, like there was nothing.
Well, you were in the hospital having the baby.
And silly me, like, still, that wasn't enough. Like, that should have been like, Candice, like, no, like, you saved up that money. That's for you and Anthony and him, like, to get off on your own. And I should have really been like, okay, no. But sad story again. Oh, it's because my mom and dad, or my mom and stepdad, they're going to lose their apartment if I don't pay. So I gave them the money for rent. So, it was just, I mean, one thing after another, one lie after another, but I was so naive and gullible, and I wanted to make that relationship work, Veronica. Like, I wanted, regardless of what happened, we were going to be stronger, and I was going to be like my parents in a happy marriage after meeting in high school. And I'm like, okay, it's going to work. And it just got to the point where, like, I couldn't keep sacrificing that, my happiness, my joy, my son, like, his lifestyle. Yeah, there are so many stories.
And you did touch on it a little bit too. Like, besides being physically abusive, he was emotionally abusive also. Okay. By what kind of things how did he emotionally abuse you? Like, what would he say, or how? Besides the guilt trip, what other things would he say to make you?
So it wasn't until after I had Anthony, like when I got pregnant and then when I had Anthony, it was those last 2 years where I seen a total different person. And I really think a lot of it was because he ended up starting to get on drugs, and he was dabbling in all of that stuff. And it would, I was working 2 jobs at the time, like, and going to college, and he's like, I don't know why you're doing that. Like, you need to be home and take care of your son before you do A and B and C, and, like, not seeing the bigger picture, and always saying, you already had the kid, like, you just need to be home now, I'll work. Like, wanting me to just stay by myself with him, and not, didn't want my friends to be around. People I would hang out with, he would tell me I was dumb for hanging out with them because nobody's going to want to hang out with a young mom anymore. They don't care about you.
That's not true, you guys. That is not true. If you have real friends, right? You have friends in high school. People will not shun you because, I mean, there might be some that you don't have anything in common with anymore, but you'll still have friends who will love you for you, regardless if you have a child or not. So don't let anyone ever tell you that.
Yeah. Because
you have a kid, you're no longer lovable, or you're no longer, friend worthy.
Yeah.
That's just him trying to control you, and you think that being a mom is a weakness. That's your, like, weakness. And there's nothing else wrong with you, but you're a mom. So nobody's gonna want to be your friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just some of the stuff would be like the losing weight, or, like, I haven't, you still have, like, and it wouldn't be like really mean spirited. He'd say it like in a joking way, but it would still like bring back insecurities and make me feel a certain way, like, oh, you still haven't lost that, or your stretch marks, oh yeah, and they're never gonna go away, like, just playing into all those body shaming type of things that people do.
But he would sneak it in a way where it's like not that bad, where you can't get mad at him because it's like, oh, just like, I'm just trying to help you out, or kind of like, we're just joking kind of thing. Oh my gosh.
So those things, and I knew always from a young age that I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to make a difference, and I remember telling myself, like, even though he would tell me that type of stuff, I'm like, yeah, right, you're dumb. I'm the one that's going, like, I'm going to do something with my life. If you don't want to, like, if you want to stay in construction or go skip out and just be on your own, and blow all your money, like, at the bar, that's you. Like, but, I didn't, and there's nothing wrong with construction. Like you know, you can be successful at it, but
you had your dream,
yeah,
and you were not letting him control your own dream.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want, you can do what you want, whatever. Mm-hmm. That's your dream to be in construction. That's mm-hmm. great. Mm-hmm. But as far as my dream, I'm continuing. Yeah. So I think that, do you think that that's a little bit maturity because you're getting a little bit older and you're realizing like, hey, you know, I have to remember my ultimate goal.
Absolutely. And I didn't want to be a statistic. Like so many young Hispanic Mexican girls, if they get pregnant, or just minorities in general, like if they get pregnant at a young age, majority of the time they drop out of school, or they don't pursue their dreams, or they don't, they become stay-at-home parents, and years later, like get upset with themselves, or why didn't I do this, or and I knew I didn't want to be that statistic. I knew I was the very first person to go to college in my entire family. Like college wasn't important.
That's amazing.
You know?
Oh, and, yeah. And you were a young mom. Go figure.
Yeah.
You know, breaking 2 records. Hey,
hey, I can still work it, guys. Hey. Just kidding.
I'm the youngest in the family, and I'm going to college. What are you going to say about that?
Yeah.
You know?
So just those were just some of the ways, some of the things that had happened, and sometimes it would bother me, and then other times I'm like, okay, he's just in one of his moods, like don't even pay attention. And you know, it wasn't until, you know, Veronica, I've seen like when I first found out like his parents were like on stuff, they were watching Anthony, and I was working at the YMCA at the time, and I like worked the split shift. Like I would work 4 hours in the morning, and then I'd have like a 5-hour break, and then I'd work another 4 hours. And so in between that, I went to the house, and it was like a whirlwind. And that was probably the first time where I was like, dude, this is not like, I knew it wasn't right, but when Anthony was around, and in that environment, I was like, this is not the life I want for my kid. Like, this is not what I want him to be around and see. But at that time, is maybe 8 months old. And so my son's dad, his mom was like going crazy, had like a knife out, and the kids were crying, and the little 5-year-old was holding Anthony. She had a little girl, 5 years old, and she was holding Anthony when I got there, and I'm like, what is going on? I just heard yelling from the house, and so I like hurried up and went in, and she was just like, he took him, and I said, he took what? And said, he took my drugs. Like he took it, he needs to give it back. And I'm still naive, have no clue that he's on this stuff. Because, sorry, you guys, I'm switching the story like back and forth, like from one event to the next. I'm not really going in order, so if you can't follow it, my bad. But that was where I was like, oh my gosh, like what? So I took all of the kids, and I knew that the kids weren't safe there. So I...
And how old was Anthony? Like 8 months, you said?
He was like 8 months.
Yeah. So you were already 8 months pregnant. He was working.
Yeah.
At this time,
mm-hmm.
in construction.
Mm-hmm.
You were working at the YMCA,
mm-hmm.
but the grandma, his mom, was watching Anthony, and
mm-hmm.
that's when you came to realize that she was using drugs, because you
mm-hmm.
didn't know that before.
Yes.
And partly that is because of your upbringing, where you were a little sheltered. Nobody really,
mm-hmm.
in your family anyways, like did that, or they didn't really talk about it,
mm-hmm.
right? So
mm-hmm.
you were like sheltered, and so it makes sense why you were just wanting the best. Like, okay, that's his grandma. Let him be watched by his grandma. And being so young, you didn't have probably a lot of other options, because
mm-hmm.
we all know daycare is expensive, and so maybe you didn't have a proper daycare to take him to, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And so when you were there, that's when the grandma was accusing whoever of taking her drugs, and she had a knife. And who was she accusing of her taking her drugs? Your boyfriend?
Yeah, of my ex.
Of your ex, yeah. Okay.
And he was like, I don't know what she's talking about. She's crazy. Like, and there I go, like believing him. And I'm like, okay, but what I did know is that it wasn't safe there. Like she wasn't she needed to calm down. And there was 4 other little kids in that house. So I'm like, I need to get these kids out. And I remember telling her, like, just, let me go take them. They're crying. Like, they don't need to see you like this. Like, let me go take them to their dad's house. And, so she let me, but she was like, I don't want him coming back in my house. And so in my head, I'm like, oh, wow, like she's on a good one. But, and I don't know if he really did take them or what the situation was after that, but that was probably my, like, if the Lord wasn't giving me a wake up call earlier to the last couple times, then this was like, hey, like, get out of it, Candice. And still, Mensa Me, like, took a while. Like,
Mensa Me, oh my gosh, there you go, blaming yourself though, you guys. Like, it's not, I mean, Candice, it's not your fault. None of this that happened is your fault. It's just
I know.
You were naive and you wanted to really, really, like, make it work. You really wanted to make it work.
Yeah.
And you had that much, you had a good example in your parents, and you just wanted to be that.
And so that was Anthony was around 8 months, maybe 9 months old. I honestly can't remember, like, specific days. And at this time
you were living with your parents, and he had an apartment, or he was still living on the street?
He was living on the street still.
Oh, he was still living on the street.
He was living on the street. So we were using my car to go, like, a lot of places. And then I remember I would drop him off and like, if he wasn't working, and I would drop them off at his mom's house, and then I'd go to work and then come back, and it was just a lot of back and forth. And so that was when I was like, oh, okay, like, and stuff started coming out. I started, like, kind of putting the pieces together, it just didn't seem right anymore. I knew something was wrong, like, and I've known stuff was wrong, but, like, even, like, I've never been the person where I want to leave somebody when they're really down. Like, I want to make sure, like, I try to help them and encourage them to come back up and to be better and to get off their feet. And especially when it's somebody that, like, I love and I care about. And I just remember, like, saying, oh man, like, when is he gonna, like, figure this stuff out? And then you hear about, oh, boys mature later than girls. And so it's all these, like, stereotypes that I'm putting in my head, kind of
to justify,
trying to justify what's going on. And when a year passes and we're at my cousin's David's bridal, trying on dresses, and he yells and says all that stuff, I remember leaving, and my mom was like, Mija, you don't have to go. Like, just stay, get Anthony and stay here. And I said, Mom, it'll be okay. Don't worry. It's fine. And then she was like, I don't like the way he's acting. Like, but I was so embarrassed. I just wanted to hurry up and get out of there. And so I told my cousin, I said, yeah, whatever one you want. This is my size. I'll like, have fun. I'm so sorry I have to leave. Like, and I left. And it was at that moment when he had pulled the car around. There's, like, a brick wall behind David's bridal. And he was just, like, yelling and saying, I can't believe you. We were supposed to spend the whole day together, trying to make it my fault again. And Anthony's in the back seat just screaming his head off, like, crying. So I'm trying to, like, look at him and say, it's gonna be okay, bud. Like don't worry, like, we're just talking, like, and he's a little over a year old. And at that time, my ex, like, he does the backhand again and, like, tries to hit me, and he hits me. And then I'm like, don't do that, like, don't, like, stop. And then Anthony keeps crying, and I just remember him going back and trying to, like, hit him to, like, shut him up, and I blocked him.
No.
And I was like, what? Like, you could do it to me, but don't you dare ever try to put your hands on my son. Like, especially, he's little, like, he's crying because there's so much emotions going on and so much chaos in the car. And I just remember going, like, berserk, like, what are you doing? Like, you don't ever do that. And before I could even, like, say anything, he just floors it, like, the car, and just drives straight into this brick wall. And just, thank God, you guys, nothing, like, he didn't hit the brick wall. He was just doing it to scare me. But he slammed on the brakes, and we were, like, an inch away from hitting the brick wall. And
that's your only transportation at the time?
Yeah, it's my only transportation. And he did it with Anthony in the car. And I lost it. Like, I got up, like, went around, unbuckled him, and tried to, like, walk off. And he was like, realize what's going on. He's like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to do anything to you guys. I swear. Like, I just got so upset and so frustrated. And like, I remember, like, it was cold turkey. Like, you know how people say they stop drinking or they stop like doing stuff cold turkey, and like it was at that moment I was like, I'm done with this relationship. I can't keep going like this.
Yeah. And so that was gonna be my next question. Like, what caused you to say no more? Like, that's it. And it was this, and then maybe because it was more than just you. Now he was hurting your baby.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was. I always tell myself, if Anthony wasn't in that car, would I have stayed for another year? Like, and I don't know. Like, I really don't know, but I know enough to know that it wasn't okay with me, and it especially wasn't okay with my son. Like, and like, he never actually hit him because I was able to block it, but he tried to crash the car into a wall. And I just remember like, he calmed down, and I was like, you know what, like, my gut thought was, don't keep over escalating, like, just chill out, because I don't want him to do anything stupid. So I remember saying, okay, well, hey, let's, like, I forgive you, it's fine, let's go to your cousin's house, because they were having a barbecue that evening. And I said, let's just go over there early. So we went all the way to Long Beach, and he got out of the car, and as soon as he got out of the car, I took off. And
wow. And that's so and that's so smart of you that you thought of a plan like that. Like, okay, this will be, like, you thought, like, this is a plan. This is how I'll get out of this, because I know if I try to fight it right now by myself, it's gonna be all bad. And so let me figure out how to do this. Like, that was so smart of you, Candice.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's how it ended. And I think maybe a few months later, like, I had talked to him once. And
did he try to call you and was blowing you up? What happened, like, after that? Like, so after you left him, how did he call you and you just declined his calls? Like, did you just have no contact until a couple months later, or?
Yeah, I had no contact with him. Not for a couple months. I just declined his calls for, like, probably a week. And just like, I was so nervous that one day he was going to come to the house, or one day he was going to come to my work or start something, and no, he didn't, thankfully. And then he kept calling and saying, like, I'm giving you till this day. If you don't come, I'm coming. Like, and so or if you don't answer, I'm coming. And so I answered, and I just told him, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I care about you, but I don't want to be in a relationship anymore, and you need help. Like, and then it was like a whole nother sob story. And he had apparently said that he was, like, trying to get clean, and he hadn't used anything for 2 days, so he was just really agitated and irritable, and couldn't help it, but he was really trying to get clean for me and for the family, and if I could give him another chance. And I was done hearing the excuses, and I was just like, no. But that was the first time that he actually had admitted that, like, he was on stuff. And even though I would ask him, and he actually admitted it and said he was trying to get clean. But I knew deep in my heart, like, it wasn't going anywhere, and I couldn't allow myself to be in that type of relationship again. Yeah. So
good for you.
Yeah. So that's my story, guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so happy that you got out of it, because nobody deserves to be in a relationship where they're being emotionally and physically abused. And I wanted to also ask you if what advice would you give someone going through something like that? And what would you tell your younger self? You know, what if you can tell anybody going through that, what would you tell them?
Love yourself first. Like, definitely love yourself enough to know that it's not okay, and reach out for help, because I think that was one of the biggest, like, regrets on my end, is that I'm so stubborn. Like, I'm freaking stubborn, you guys. Like, so I didn't want anybody to know, because I didn't want him to look bad because I was still with him, and then B, I didn't want myself to look weak or look naive and dumb, like, because I knew it was wrong. Like, everybody knows it's wrong, but you say, like, it's so hard to get courage and strength to walk away from stuff. And definitely talk to somebody. So if it's not your parents, or if it's not somebody, just go to somebody that you're close to, or even a friend, because I didn't tell any of my friends at the time, not until I was older, like, and they'd ask, are we still together, or what happened, and like I'd share little bits and pieces, but not the whole situation. But no, it was a funky relationship. Like, it was so many negatives, like, in that whole thing, but it really, like, made me more cautious, like, made me, it also put a really huge, like, guard up, like, too, though.
Yeah, and another thing, though, is, like, you had a positive family atmosphere, right? So a lot of people say, like, oh, if your parents are divorced, you're more likely to be in an abusive relationship. If your parents are physically or emotionally abusive to you or to each other, you're more likely to be in a relationship, a violent relationship. But you were none of those things. Nope. And that's also, like, what I want to get out is that even you can have the best marriage and show your kids the best things, but they're going to have their own experiences. And that's why it's always important, I think, to show your kids that it's okay to make mistakes, number one. No matter what, we're going to love you unconditionally. But we want you to know that you can talk to us, with, if you're going through something. Or, and a lot of people want to put up that facade, like, we're perfect, right? Like, and I always tell my girls, like, no family is perfect, number one. And if your friends or you think that they have a perfect household, like, that they don't. They just hide it well. No family is perfect. And so, but of course it's hard to believe that when you're a teenager, you know what I mean? Like, you just believe what you see. And so, you had that. So, like, for the parents out there, I would advise parents of people who are dating, of teenagers, adolescents, to talk to their kids about teen violence and let them know that they can come to them if they feel unsafe, with no judgment. And for me, it's hard because I have 3 stepdaughters, and I see, like, if I don't agree with something, I just share my opinion. We share our opinion. And sometimes we want to control the relationship, but it's out of our control. Yeah. We have to, like, really be kind of, even though they're learning, let them make those choices that they want to make in their relationships, and just guide them and say, hey, I don't think that's a good idea, but it's your relationship and you do what you think is right. Because at the end of the day, you have to sleep with yourself and wake up to yourself. You have, and I think when parents try to also, like, say, like, when they try to put judgment, it, like, pretend, like, the kids don't want to. They don't want to share. They don't want to hear it anymore. Yeah. So they're not going to share. So it's just a hard situation, because then if, like, they share and you accept it because that's their choice, it's like you're enabling that bad relationship. You know what I mean? It's just so hard. Yeah. Like,
there's so many dynamics. Yeah.
So hard, and that's why I'm winging it at this age with the kids.
Oh, my goodness. So am I. Like, I'm winging everything. Like, it's just you. But I think that's life, right? Like, you know a little bit of what you're going to do, and then you get off track, or there's a bump in the road, or there's some type of obstacle that you have to face, and it's just, okay, that path that you were trying to do, it didn't work, and you have to try something different. And it's life. Like,
and it's funny because the girls, they watch how I interact. So, like, with the oldest, her relationship, like, if we said anything negative about it, the younger ones are watching. So then the younger ones aren't going to tell us what they're going through, because they don't want us to say anything negative about their relationship, Yeah. So then I've learned, like, okay, now the middle one's, like, hiding certain things because she doesn't want us to think anything negative. So it's like, and then so I'm just learning as I go along. But one thing is, we always, like, admit our faults. Like, anyways, in this house, like, I'm big on, like, you know what, maybe I caused damage by outwardly speaking up for my oldest in her relationship, like, because then the younger one's watching, and now she, it's just hard. So I just tell them, like, at the end of the day, you guys have to make your own decisions. Yeah. Just be cautious. And I'm learning that, like, there's no right or wrong way. All you can do is, like, follow your gut, right? And follow what you think is right in the moment. And what's right for one kid, how you advise one kid, might not be right for the next kid, because they're all different.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
But the first step is education. And that's what, like, I want people to know, or kids, like, that are listening, or young adults, I should say, that are listening about, you know, like, that are listening to this podcast. Like, this is, like, it's not your fault, and it's not normal, and it's not love when somebody is abusive or controlling or they get jealous fast, you know? It's funny because one of my, it was a friend, she was like, oh, you know, my boyfriend got jealous about this, you know, and it bothered me. And I'm like, a young girl would think like, oh, he loves me. But a woman would be like, oh, hell no. Like that, you don't need to be controlling or jealous. You know, I'm in this relationship.
Absolutely.
For you, you know, so it's the normal for young girls to think that that's cute. Oh, he's jealous, or oh, he doesn't like me talking to guys. Like, you know, he's real territorial. Like, that's love. But that's not love.
No, not at all. And in the moment you think that it's the only person in the world for you, and you guys, just so you know, I am a queen of dating. And there's not going to be just one person, like, when you're 16 years old. Like, it's very rare to find that, but there's so many other people out there, and people that will treat you the way you want to be treated, and will love you the way you need to be loved and you deserve to be loved, and that you won't have to put up with that type of relationship with. And the sooner you figure it out, the better. And I guess for me, it's like the biggest thing is, if you ever get put in that situation, like, know your worth and know that it's not okay ever. And any excuse you get isn't a good excuse. Like, try your hardest to talk to somebody and to get out of that, because you deserve so much more.
Yeah, sometimes, well, cheers to that, first of all.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers to that. Cheers to that. You deserve so much more. Talk to people.
And you still learn that as an adult. Like, yeah.
And a lot of people are scared to talk to people because why? You don't know who you can trust. Because they put it in your head like you can't trust anybody. They're not your friends. You're not worthy of friends.
Yeah.
So it's like a cycle. But once you're ready, you're ready. It's like, that's it. But I want the parents out there to know, no matter how perfect your family is, or what you teach your kids, or what you instill in them, they're going to make their own choices and their own mistakes. Like, never think that your kid is not going to experience something that is hurtful, or that is like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, don't ever think that your kid's exempt from experiencing hardships in life, because you provided a great home for them, or a great life for them. Because at the end of the day, they are their own person, and they're going to go through their own experiences and interpret those experiences differently. Right? So growing up, I came from an abusive home. Like, my father, he was very abusive to my mom. And as you know, my mom, she encountered substance abuse when they divorced. She was addicted to methamphetamines, which is the nastiest drug to me. I hate that drug with every inch of my soul. Like, I hate all drugs, but that drug, it's horrible. And so anyways, she became addicted to drugs. But my dad, even though he was abusive to my mom, I had unconditional love for my dad, because he never turned against me. Like, he never hit me, you know what I mean? And so when my parents divorced, I would go with my dad still, and we had a good relationship. But I told my mom, like, even though you went through that substance abuse, and even though, like, I didn't have you for, you know, I had you in my life, but you weren't, like mentally and emotionally there for a big chunk, you taught me the value of knowing the value of myself, and not allowing anyone to put hands on me. Like, you taught me that, because you walked away from my dad.
Yeah.
When you got us out of that situation. So who knows who I would be, or what it would become of me if my mom stayed in that relationship.
Yeah.
So I told her, like, I always give her credit for showing me how to, like, not put up with that. Like, I tell her, Mom, you taught me the most important thing in life that a mother can teach a daughter, and that is to value herself.
Absolutely.
Not by only talking, but by actions. Because you, even though you had nowhere to go, I mean, we did have somewhere to go. We went to my grandma's house, and we lived there. But she suffered, you know, like it's like you go from having your own house and having your own little family to like, no, I'll stay by I'll go back to my mom's house.
Yeah.
She did it, and I'm sure it was scary for her.
Yeah.
But she did it, and I thank the Lord that she did, because now my dad's a better person. My dad is I didn't experience that anymore after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he would still, for years, he would still have spouts with my mom when he would go pick us up. Mm-hmm. You know, like, issues where we were like, oh my God, like I can't believe he got out of the car and, like, was trying to hit her, you know? Like, it was that kind of stuff still happening. Yeah. But me and my, like, it was weird because I still loved him so much. And, I mean, it's not weird.
Dad.
It's my dad. It's not weird. It's just, like, I knew he wouldn't hit me. You know what I mean? But when they divorced, I was happy because we weren't walking on eggshells.
To witness that and have that tension in the house, like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so what you did for Anthony, you know, probably, it's like something you don't know the value because you didn't experience it. It's kind of like kids who take things for granted. Like, if you see kids in Mexico, or if you would have been me when I was growing up and I didn't have this, like, you know, since he didn't experience it. But I'm telling you, Candice, what you did for Anthony by saving him the heartache, the eggshells, the anxiety, the probably depression, everything. Like, you did a big thing for him. Mm-hmm. And you might not I mean, I know you do realize it, but what you did is life altering, because who knows what would have become of him if he would have been raised in that kind of household.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
So
yeah. Well, he was my why, you know, like that was that pushing factor for me, like not just in like that relationship, but just like life in general, like with the schooling and with like my home and just, you know, all of that is to better his life. And it's so hard right now because he's a teenager and has a mind of his own, and it's just like trying to keep instilling those values and having those conversations and those talks, like especially right now during this whole with COVID, like being home and being able to be around him and open up and hear him opening up and talking, like it's good for both of us. But there's some times where I'm just like, oh my gosh, kid, like what are you doing? But it's, you know, it shapes him. Like I really believe that, like, the more you talk to your kids, the more they can open up and they are comfortable around you. And I mean, I'm sure he doesn't tell me everything, but well, it's we have a good relationship, so
yeah. Yeah, and I think too that if kids don't tell you everything, I always tell them, like, look, girls, you probably don't tell me everything, but talk to someone, whether it's your mom, your dad, your, like, me, whatever, like your sister, whatever you need to do, like, talk to somebody. Don't hold things in, you know. Another thing with, like, social media or with, like, their phones, they can find everything. And I tell the girls, like, I tell the older ones anyways, like, what you see on, like the phones, or, like, what people might think, like, everything's sexualized. Everything. And I'm like, you don't have to be that person, just so you know. Like, that's like, that's Photoshop.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They don't really have, like, a waist.
An inch waist.
Yeah, like this small.
Yeah.
Like, you're fine the way you are, you know? Like, trying to still, like, bring them out of the internet world and letting them know, like, that's Photoshop. That's not real life. Like, that's not real.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, I tell them, too, like, if you don't want to talk to me about certain things, find somebody who you do trust. Just don't hold it in, and don't look through the internet either. Like, sometimes all of that, you don't even know what's real or what's not.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't know what's good advice, what's bad advice.
Yeah.
And I said, like, it's crazy. Like, I don't have any biological kids, and I'm thankful for that, because even having my stepdaughters, I'm so worried all the time. Like, I can't even imagine. And I feel like comfort in knowing that they have 3 parents. Me, their mom, and their dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, we're all, like, together working with them. But I can't imagine having, like, that weight. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and right now I'm just, like, taking, like, inventory of my body, and I have all this tension right here. That's because, like, it's a big responsibility as a parent. Yeah. And so, but back to, like, what you did, like, that, I just want to give you kudos, because, friend, that is so hard. And okay, so, besides that, okay, you went through that. But you were going to school as a young mom. And like he was one, or like after you had him, you went back to school to become a teacher right away, or when did you do that?
So I immediately went to college. Like the girls will laugh at me. So my friend Bernice, she went to college with me, and her and a couple of them, they lived on the dorms. And I mean, I knew if I took any time off, I couldn't. Like I was scared to death that if I took time off or I didn't go, I wouldn't ever go. So I went to college right after high school. Cal State San Bernardino, hey.
What are the Coyotes?
Yeah, you went there too, didn't you? For a little bit? Or Fullerton?
I went Cal State Fullerton.
Okay, Fullerton.
Titans.
Okay. So yeah. Anyways, so guys, I gotta end this podcast because no, I'm just kidding.
She's done.
No, so I went right after, like, I was pregnant, like, literally 9 months pregnant, and I remember that I had an umbilical hernia, and then I also have like scoliosis in my back, so all the books were like super heavy, and so the doctor was like, no, you need to like have one of those wheeling backpacks. It was the most embarrassing and humblest experience ever, because you're young and you want to like first year on college, and I'm already pregnant, so I stick out like a sore thumb, but I'm over here like, you guys, my stomach was huge, so my ex was like 6'8", okay, that's why Anthony's so tall, like, and my stomach looked like I was having triplets. And I just remember rolling this backpack, and any break I'd have, I'd go to my friend Bernice's house, or Bernice's apartment, and I'd go and I'd just sit on her bed for like 10 minutes, huffing and puffing, like just from walking the campus. But I knew I had to do it. Like I wasn't going to let that stop me. And I met some really awesome people at the college, and I the semester ended in December. Ended in December. I took off the very next quarter. When I had Anthony, I had him in February, and then in March I went back to school.
Oh my gosh.
For the next semester, or the next quarter. So I took off 3 months, and like I was back at it, and like the school was amazing. Like they had like a little childcare area, so at night if I went to school, my parents were pretty hard on me. Like I think they really just. They weren't hard looking. They weren't hard. They were being supportive in a tough way, like tough love, you know.
They knew that there was resources out there, and they're like, go get those resources.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go.
Yeah, like we're not gonna raise this baby. We're not. It's not our responsibility. Like you do what you need to do, and so but yet they'd still like watch him whenever I needed them. But Cal State San Bernardino had like this little daycare center that I was able to take him to like for 2 of my classes, and I'd drop him off, and then I'd pick him up, and then I'd go to work. And I honestly wish like God had so much stuff aligned and planned out for me without me having to worry. And even though I didn't see it then, like he's always had my back. And
Candice, real quick, that makes you emotional. What about that makes you emotional?
Oh yeah, guys, I'm crying now.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of the other stuff really made me emotional, but no, I just like I've always been brought up in like a Christian household, and as never really lived like 100% like the way of the Lord, like just everything. Like I got into just like dumb stuff, and you guys, for anybody that knows me, you guys know I love this right here. So
I do too. It's okay.
So just looking back, like I don't like to let anybody not take care of me, but I don't like to let anybody help me. And it's one of my downfalls. Like I want to do everything on my own, and I think this whole time, like I would always think I was doing it on my own, but really I never did anything on my own. It was always his plan. And I'm just that part, like I'm so gracious for that part. And it's taken me a long time as an adult to realize like everything I have, the only reason why I have it is because the Lord has blessed me with it. And I'm more emotional because like I want my son and my sister to like know that everything that they have too isn't just given to them. It's like it's given for them from the Lord, from God, for everything that He knows everything that we're going to go through. He knows everything that we will go through in 10 years and 20 years, and He makes the path for us. Like, and we choose which way we want to go, but He gives us all the tools to provide for us and to look out for us. And so I think that's why I'm just more emotional, because like I like to control everything in my life, and really He's the one that has been my safe haven. Like, He's the one that's helped me through everything. So yeah,
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I think that's what gives me, and that's something that my parents gave us, that my parents gave me and your parents gave you, is faith. And introducing you to church and to our religion, and to like that has been that's been the reason why I don't see myself as like a victim. I see myself as like, that was a lesson I had to learn.
Absolutely.
And I'm coming out of it stronger, and I'm using it to touch other people or to talk to other people about my experiences. You know what I mean? Like, there's been times, and I'm sure you've experienced that, you're like, down to your last penny, like, what am I going to do? I don't want to ask my dad for money again. He just gave me my allowance. Like, you know, like in college, my dad would literally pay for my rent, which was $200 a month, because I shared a room. And then I'd pay, like, I would work and I would pay for what I needed to pay for. Yeah. And so, hold on, Candice's camera just died, but it's okay. Let me fix this. So, what was I saying? Okay, so I was saying, like, I'd be like, oh my God, how am I going to pay, or how am I going to have money for gas, you know? And then all of a sudden a check would come in from, like, the IRS that owed me, like, $100, like, and just they forgot, or they were short, or whatever the thing is, right? Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, like, thank you, God. Like, I know you dropped this. Yes. Like, I know you, like, I know you were working, like, you know, I know this was all you. Yeah. So, like you said, like, I'm the same way, and I thank my dad and my mom for that, like, introducing me to church at a young age, because I felt so much, like, I felt so much, what is it called? Like, like, that's what gave me peace. Yes. It's something outside, like, I didn't deserve, this is God, God, like, showing me something, or having me, this is a bigger plan. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Same, I feel the same way, like, it's all of that, and it's just so thankful, because there's, like, I try to, like, I've been able to accomplish so many of my goals that I put in place, but it's because of just the grace and the compassion that He always shows, and just, like, it's just a good feeling to have. Like, so it's not like that I'm sad or anything, it's just more that, like, dude, like I wish I would have really, like learned that in my young, like, 20s, like, and just been so much more thankful for everything. But I mean, I hope that, you know, I'm winging it with parenting too. Like, I'm single mom, and try to play both roles sometimes, and I'm pretty lenient. Like, I wish I need to be like the dad, like, crazy, like, you better do this, like, type of, like, scenarios, like, but I think it's working, like, and also Anthony has other kids. He has his grandpa. He has other role models, right? In his life. My dad and my uncle. So his brother, or his uncle, my brother, his uncle. They've helped out so much too. But it's, you know, I definitely never let it define me. Like, it wasn't even one of those things where I'm like, oh my goodness, like, hey, this happened, woe is me, like, oh, I'm never gonna have this again. Like, it's just been like a stepping stone, like a learning experience, a learning tool, and like, we all go through some type of challenge, and it's just overcoming it and how we overcome it, and what we do afterwards that defines us. Yes, and nothing's perfect, right? Yep. Nothing is perfect. It's just how we react to those imperfect times and how we bounce back, right? Another thing I wanted to tell you too is, like, okay, so let's go back to your school, because we're not done with that chapter of your life. So you finished school after you had him, right? And then you graduated, and you went back for your teacher's credentials, or did you do it all at once, or you didn't have to go back? Yeah, I went back for my teacher credential and my master's. Yes, yeah. See? You guys, like, she continued college, then not only that, but went through and got her master's and her teacher's credentials. And that's what it's about, Candice. That's, give me 5. Ah! Hey!
Hey! That's our trademark, guys. Hey!
No, that's Candice's.
Oh yeah, that's my trademark.
Okay,
Just
like,
kidding.
yeah.
I'll let people borrow it here and there, but only when they're around me.
Yes, that's the only time I say it. And so, like, that is amazing, friend.
Thank
I'm
you.
So proud of you.
Thank you.
So proud of you, and that's what, like, I want people out there, no matter what you're experiencing as a young mom, a single mom, if you really want to do it, don't let anything get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And was it easy, Candice?
No, not at all. Honestly, I don't even know how I did it. Like, looking back, I'm like, it was working 2 jobs, going to college, going to school, taking care of Anthony. Like, it was a lot. But it was my life. Like, I didn't realize it was hard until after I was done. Like, it was challenging and frustrating, but it was just the way of life. Like, it was like everyday routine. Like, that's what I had to do. And now I don't even think I'd have the energy to do like what I did back then now, but it was going to benefit our life in the long term. So it was just that long-term goals. You guys set those goals and set those long-term intentions, and stick with it. Like, anything's possible. Whatever it is you want to do, you want to shoot for, you go. And like an older person now, an adult, like they say, my sister says I'm ancient, and she says we're old and ancient, but even being ancient, like, you're still making goals. Like, we continue to make any type of goals you want and reach for them, because you guys are the only ones that can really have like your own destiny planned out in your faith. Like, it's up to for you to drive yourself.
Yes, it's for you to drive yourself. You can't, nothing will be done for you. Mm-hmm. If you want to accomplish something, you need to do the work. It's going to be hard, but it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It could be done.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's what this is about. Well, Candice, we're going to wrap it up here, because that is amazing. I want to say that, first of all, give me your hand. Time is one of, time is one of the most precious gifts you can give someone. So thank you for giving me your time today.
Oh, thank you.
And you guys, so here we are talking to my friend who was a young mom. She overcame abuse, physical, emotional abuse. She went to college, finished her ultimate goal of becoming a teacher, and she's doing it. Remember that winging it and winning is a mindset, and only you have the power to create your best life. Thank you guys, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.